Welcome. What's going on, friends? I am here to do a little U.S. Open early first look pod. We're kind of obviously a bit ahead of schedule. Was going to put this out this weekend. I talked to my guy here, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and let it fly live. So if anyone is in here and wants to drop a comment or a question for Steven, by all means do it. I'm fired up. I can't wait for Torrey, Steve. To further introduce my guest, Mr. Stephen Hennessey has joined us today. Department manager at Golf Digest, oversees the 100 greatest courses in the U.S. committee, host of the Be Right podcast with our guy Chris Powers and Alex over there. They were generous enough to have me on once. Twitter handle S_Hennessey. Did I get that right? What's going on, pal? Good to see you.
Yo, thanks so much for having me, Joe. Pumped. We had you on our show, so happy to reciprocate. And Torrey, I think for everyone of our generation, this is like the golf tournament. Obviously, Tiger, Pebble, and some of the Masters, obviously. But I just remember so vividly watching the Monday playoff, and Rocco Media. It's just legendary. So to go back there for U.S. Open, it's going to be awesome. So, anyways.
It's so vivid. Probably the greatest Monday of golf I've ever watched, right? We had Goliath, who was hobbled, quite literally hobbled, double fracture in the left leg, shows up limping all around. And we have, I believe, 45-year-old Rocco, fresh off of back surgery, peace sign belt buckle and all. And he has the balls, the stones to wear red and black. It was just awesome television. They par. I think they both shot even par 71 after 18 holes. Took it to a 19th hole. The drama was all there. We'll get to that in a second. But first, what's up, guys? I want to tell you about Jock Market. Steve, have you tried Jock Market?
I have been very tempted because, I talk to Rick all the time. I watch you describe it, and I watch your guys' Power Hour. I have to get in the mix.
Dude, it's awesome. It's awesome. We have a new promo code that I have going below. It's the promo code DROP. Forget the numbers. It's just straight up power, right? Use the promo code POWER. Use the promo code PL. Either one will work. And what they will do is give you a 100% match up to $50. So you deposit $30, they'll give you 30. You deposit 50, they'll give you 50. That's kind of the max they'll do. But there's some free money to kind of get you started. It's awesome. Basically, it's fantasy sports meets the stock market. All players have a share price. I do the show here at 8:15 and a little bit with Rick Gaiman, so it's a ton of fun. If you haven't gotten involved yet, nice little promo code below. But that said, we're here to talk U.S. Open. But listen, I got to ask you first, man, because I got you here. 100 greatest courses in America. What are the perks that come with that? Do you just show up anywhere and flash a badge and be like, get me on to Augusta? I want a 1:00 tee time with lunch and a beverage in the cart, or what?
Man, I wish. No, Augusta, that invite has not come yet. I have been very fortunate to have played now 31 of our 100 greatest, which, I know I'm very fortunate and lucky to have done that. And the nice thing is, so we have 1,900 course panelists around the country who evaluate the courses for us. And, a lot of them are members at some nice places, so they'll have me out to their club. So it does come with some perks, but I'm very careful about it because, I'm representing our brand and, all that comes with it. So definitely some perks, but no, I can't call up Pine Valley and say, hey, I'm coming with a couple foursomes, and they would laugh at me just as they laugh at anybody else who tried to do that.
Do you want to be number one next year or what? Let me on.
My buddies always joke the same thing. Like, man, just call them up. We're in this area. Can't you just call them? No, we're going to do this the right way. And if we happen to get an invite, we'll do it. And like I said, we've been pretty lucky in that regard, but yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Incredible. Well, listen, I noticed one course that isn't on there, but that's what we're here to talk about today. And it's Torrey Pines, in particular, the South course, 121st U.S. Open. We talked about all the drama that came about 13 years ago. You like drama? We got plenty of it this year. Tell me, what are your favorite sort of storylines coming into this week? What are you looking for? What's what's the target at over at Golf Digest on sort of hot button topics right now heading into this U.S. Open?
Yeah, I mean, first about the course, it's interesting to me that this is kind of like the last stand of Reese Jones. That was our magazine article in our U.S. Open preview issue because, everyone knows Reese Jones as the Open doctor. He, kind of redesigned all these great venues of the 90s and 2000s, and, Torrey Pines being one of them before 2008. Before Bethpage, which hosted the U.S. Open. I'm rocking the Bethpage shirt since I'm close to it here in Jersey. So that's like the East Coast version of Torrey. Torrey's obviously public. If you're a San Diego resident, you can play for $70. So I just love that. But Reese Jones, this is kind of like the last course that is kind of in his ballpark. Now we're kind of transitioning to this era of course designers who are kind of going back to the original design intent of all these classic courses, whereas Reese Jones, took a course and really wanted to make it as penal and demanding as possible. So that's what we have at Torrey. It's, and everyone kind of knows it, but it's, hitting it long and straight, and there's a huge penalty if you miss the fairway. There's, this huge rough. I think it'll be at least 4 inches this week, if not longer. And then, around the greens, if you miss the green, there's hazards all over. He did a lot of work to the bunkers. And then the greens too, it's, making sure you hit to a certain area of the green. That's kind of their design team's philosophy. So, and obviously some really small greens at Torrey. So, it's a proper test, at least a proper test of what we knew the U.S. Open would be over the last 20 years or so. So I think it's interesting in that regard that we're kind of like, this is one of the last courses of its kind in terms of championship venues.
Yeah, in terms of the course, I think that it will be quite interesting, right? Because we're familiar with Torrey. Like, we see it every January. But, when Mike Davis and his crew show up in the summer, it tends to be like nothing that you're used to seeing year-to-year basis. Do you think there's anything we can take from the Farmers Insurance Open in terms of applying, what indicators there were for success there around the green game, approach game? Do you think we can kind of cross those over here and look at people who are doing the same things well, or is it just a whole new ball game next week?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like whereas other courses, they do a lot of things differently when it's a major week. Pebble comes to mind that, they add so much length to that for the U.S. Open when it's there. The rough is down so much typically for the Pro-Am compared to the U.S. Open, but at the Farmers, they have thick rough. It's 3 inches typically. So, I think that's pretty similar. And I think it's going to play very similar. So when I'm beginning to do my handicapping, I'm definitely looking at Farmers, to see who plays well year in and year out. And we have all this great data. So I think you got to start there. I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to start there. I'm kind of looking, like, I'm not going to weight course history so much. Like, if a guy hasn't played well at the Farmers before, I'm not going to totally write him off. Like Brooks, for instance, I don't think he's broken par in his last 7 or 8 rounds here. But I'm not going to write him off because the things that do lead to people winning at the Farmers, he's doing pretty well right now. So, I'm looking at those sort of, from a course history standpoint, I'm not relying on it, but I'm looking at what has made people successful here in the past. The other thing is, like, is it possible to just look at past U.S. Opens, and even though they're at a totally different course, being like, for me, it's predominantly like distance, right? Like, you want to win a U.S. Open, you better hit it far. Like, do we go back sort of through Aaron Hills and in these other courses in Pebble and even last year at Wingfoot and look at what made people success just on a U.S. Open setup, even though it's at a different course?
Yeah, I think I would. And, a lot of the courses you mentioned, some of them are a little different. So like Aaron Hills, I don't know as much because the greens are so big there. I think Pebble's a great comparison because the size of the greens are similar, the POA greens. So I think you got to look at Pebble for sure. And yeah, I think Winged Foot even, obviously distance and hitting it out of the rough. We saw Bryson do that so well. I think we're going to see a similar, key to success here. So yeah, I think that's a good call. I would definitely go back through like the last 3 or 4 U.S. Opens, and I think that's another good starting point.
Are you a narrative guy, Steve? Like, are we buying some of like the so there's a ton of narratives, right? There's more than we can like handle. We have Xander sort of returning home.
Mm-hmm.
We have 51-year-old Phil Mickelson coming off of a major championship, heading like still chasing that dream of a U.S. Open. We've got, a chance for Patrick Reed to sort of return to the place where his name got muddled. We've got Rahm, a little bit of redemption factor there. Like what do you buy into that kind of stuff? And how do you weight that when you're trying to sort of handicap it and isolate a winner?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a journalist by nature, so I got to be a narrative guy. That's in my blood. And, you root for the storylines, and I'm a golf fan. So it is hard to kind of remove that from the stats. And, I know you do a decent job of looking at the narrative too, and allowing that to kind of come into your handicap a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, it's hard not to ignore, Patrick Reed coming back here after what happened. And he did so well here in January. So I think, again, he's not getting the respect at 35-1. A lot of people are going to give him a hard look there. Man, we got to talk about Jon Rahm too, because I mean, it's so interesting. He has this positive COVID test. And what's interesting to me is now, since he's in quarantine, he may not be able to show up to Torrey Pines because he's under that 10-day quarantine until possibly Wednesday, because if you take, those 10 days, at least till Tuesday. So, how that affects him, and is he able to practice based off of, if he's quarantining, by what we think quarantining is, maybe he's not able to practice. Is he still in Ohio? Like, has he been able to hop on a NetJets plane and like get back? Like, this is crazy. We're talking about the favorite of the golf tournament. Everyone thought Rahm was like a lock at Torrey Pines, and now like, what's the deal there? It's crazy. I wonder how you're kind of looking at it too,
dude. And it's the thing is like it's 10 days. Is that the rule as far as you know? So essentially, like what I'm kind of thinking of is when they, in a way, of course, I'm not going to say it was a terrible circumstance for him in terms of having to basically give away $1 million plus, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same token, had that happened on Sunday, like, is he fortunate a little bit that did happen on Saturday? Because had that happened on Sunday, 10 days puts him essentially right at Thursday, and he would have been like gotten 0 practice in. So, yeah, it's interesting. The favorite here obviously got his sort of breakthrough win here at Torrey. Mm-hmm. He was he was torching Muirfield like I don't know that we've ever seen someone do. Switch putters, which I think was a huge benefit for him. There's so many good players at the top that I just usually not a guy that typically bets the favorite. Mm-hmm. Is kind of my take on it. But the other 2 guys, let's talk about the 2 guys right below him. We've seen the battle on social media. Will we see Steve Hennessy? Will we see the battle head to head? Like, are they going to put these 2 guys in the ring together, or are we going to have to wait longer?
Oh my God.
Bryson and Brooks, obviously, I'm talking about.
Right. I'm begging the USGA, please put Bryson and Brooks together. It would be amazing. Like, probably nothing would even happen. Like, they'll shake hands and, people will just be going nuts at Torrey. But just, for the extra eyeballs, because it's been a story that's transcended golf, and, sports fans are like, what's going on with these golfers? So, man, I hope so. I think there's a decent chance. I know that the USGA is thinking about doing it. Whether they actually do it, Feinberg made this point a couple of weeks ago when I was chatting with him, he's like, it could just be too much of a distraction, and the USGA might end up not doing it. And I thought that was a good point. So
it was a fair point, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope it happens, though. I mean, we have a couple of the most recent, major champions, the last couple U.S. Open champions. So please let it happen.
Like for me, these two are the guys in a sense of capturing not only eyeballs on the PGA Tour on a level that Jon Rahm still hasn't been able to do, but like I feel like everything that Bryson did maybe it was 3 years ago to sort of put on this weight, put on this distance, like everything was geared toward this is how I'm going to win US Opens, right? Like his game is tailor-made for this type of setup when it plays difficult. And we know Brooks, like you stick him in any major, especially one that's going to play tough, especially one that's going to be somewhat close to around level par. And I don't know that there's a better player on the planet. They go about it in so many different ways. If I asked you to pick one on a Wednesday before the week of the U.S. Open, like who do you give the advantage to here? Like, who do you think?
I would say probably Brooks. Just because, and Bryson played decent at the PGA too. Just had a couple blow-ups, but yeah, I mean, Brooks, it just feels like has a bit more of the complete game at this point. Like the approach play, I would give an advantage to him over Bryson, and I just kind of always go back to that. So, that's kind of where I'm leaning between those two. I don't know.
Anyone who's followed me long enough knows where I stand on the paddle. So I'll be on Team Brooks. I'll always be on Team Brooks, but I'm excited for it. I love it. I like Bryson too. I'm glad that he's kind of engaged Brooks in this. Look, Brooks Koepka needs the chip. I talked to Chad about this on Monday. Like anything that you can throw at him to add a little bit of gas in the tank, he's going to take and he's going to run with it. And Bryson provided that. So this is exactly what he needed. I just hope that they put them two together.
I know.
Let's shift over. You know what? I'm going to bring up here. Let me see if I do this right. I'm missing our normal producer, Mr. Chad Eckert, tonight. There we go. Okay, so I have Draftkings Sportsbook up. I just want to kind of, and we're early, right, Steve? Like we don't have to dial in picks right now, but I just kind of want to, like, when you look at sort of the top of the board here, basically Rahm down to Spieth, is there anything that like an early lean or something that sticks out to you? So I'll basically give the guys, in case it's hard to read. It's Rahm, Bryson, Rory, JT, DJ, Brooks, Xander, Jordan Spieth, all under 15-1. That seems like a lot of guys there. Any early sort of inclinations on your end?
I feel like Rory's kind of getting forgotten about a little bit. The 12-1 here at DraftKings is tough. I'm seeing some bigger numbers. So like an 18-1 at Rory. And, when you're talking about needing to drive it long and straight, we just saw him do it at Quail Hollow. So I think like I said, he's kind of being forgotten a bit. And I think this course does set up well for him. And then Xander too, obviously you mentioned the San Diego storyline, and he played better at the Farmers this year. So that's going to be interesting to me. Yeah. So I don't know. I think those two would be the guys that jump out, and Spieth is interesting too. I just don't know that he's long enough, he's plenty long, but that's kind of been, if you could pick out a flaw of the best player in the world in 2021, it's probably the off the tee game. And I think that's probably the most important thing here. So that's probably, and I've been betting Spieth pretty much at every tournament. So that's where I am.
Yeah, I would agree. He's totally back, right? Yes. But I don't know that he's back in the sense of I'm ready to bet him sub 15-1 in a U.S. Open level back. The other one, like you mentioned, Xander, and it's just hard for me to get there because you have all these other guys with notches in the belt and who we've seen done it for, and he's being priced and almost getting credit for being for having some of those victories and being on the same level. We know that he has all the tools in the game. He struggled at the Farmers in the past. I don't think it's like I don't think it's an issue of, I got to get tickets for my 8th grade teacher and my high school girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
just like things just haven't aligned, and maybe it's just not a great course setup for him. But to price him there with Brooks and with DJ, I can't. I want to bet him one of these weeks, but I can never get myself to the point where I feel like there's any value in that number.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you can make the case for 5 more guys in this elite, category than Xander. So yeah, it's tough. We're big fans of Xander, but at this number, probably not.
Let me get to a quick question here from our guy Stewie. Scott Stewart, he's the man if you don't know him. Does this course set up well for a left-handed player? It's interesting, like there seems to be a lack of like a great lefty right now. Like I'm scrolling down the board, and the first one that I even come to is, I'm still looking for a lefty, is Phil at 50-1. Like, is this a course where you can see it favoring a particular handed player or a particular shot shape, like a draw or a cut?
So many of these holes are just long and straight that I don't think it totally matters. But, we've seen lefties win. I mean, Phil has how many wins here? 3. A couple of runners up. 2. Bubba won here in 2011, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So I think, I don't know. And Bubba at a U.S. Open is that's a scary thought. And Phil, I mean, I would have said, a month ago, Phil at a U.S. Open's a scary thought. And 50-1, now he's finally getting the respect, not like the 200-1 before he won the PGA. So yeah, I mean, this venue in particular, I don't think it matters, righty or lefty.
What about like who's a candidate that you like for really a breakthrough victory? Like, I've arrived. I'm here. I'm with the big boys. I'll give you a couple names. Like we have Victor Hovland. We have Tony Finau. You've got Will Zalatoris. You can even maybe throw like a Scheffler and a Neiman in the mix. Guys that are really playing well, and we're used to, like guys like us are familiar with them. But I think mainstream, the people who watch golf only on a Sunday afternoon, like it'd be shocking if one of these guys won to these people. Who do you think? Is it Vic?
I mean, it's tough not to say Vic, I mean, had the runner up here in January, and, he drives it long, drives it straight. The short game's improved. It's tough not to make an argument for Hovland and Scheffler too. I feel like Scheffler always kind of gets forgotten in this conversation with all the young guns because Morikawa, has done so much. Scheffler, popped at Memorial, almost kind of got it done. And I think his strength is really the driving. Whenever you see a course where you need to hit it long and straight, that's where Scheffler really succeeds. So those 2 guys, I think for me are, I'm probably going to be tempted to bet both of them. So I'm probably going to do that after we're done here. I'm going to just go and bet it.
Early lines. Yeah, I think if you're looking now, like a lot of these guys, I don't think it hurts necessarily to wait next week because, I think a lot of it starts to get competitive between sportsbook, and that really ratchets up the week of a major, and you may see different books offer different lines. I'm using Draftkings Sportsbook right now just because it kind of goes along with our color scheme here, but you can search it anywhere. The guys in the mid-tier, I know you mentioned Patrick Reed earlier, but that's where I feel like I've always felt that the bulk of the value, if you're going to win over the course of, say, a year betting golf and look at it kind of from a macro level, you've got to really nail this 25 to 50 range. Is there anyone sort of in that spectrum that you see that you think sets up well for Torrey Pines?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned Vic. Finau is just, it's
what do we do there? Can we bet him?
It's tough for me to quit him. I mean, I've already – I'm already thousands in the hole on Tony Finau. So what's another, $50? If it's his breakthrough win, I don't know. It's a venue that should suit his game, right? Long, straight.
Yeah, but I feel like almost every venue on the PGA Tour should shoot his game. How he's not gotten it done at this point, is it something? I don't want to say what I think. Do you believe that there's a clutch gene in golf, so to speak, in guys that just have the ability to close and guys that don't have the ability to close. Maybe it's pressure. Maybe it's just not within their competitive spirit to really get this done. Or is it just simply, hey, I just got to give myself enough chances, and it's a little bit of luck involved. And it's, if Max Homa doesn't get up and down from the middle of a tree stump, then I won at Riviera, and this is all put to bed. You know what I'm saying? So where do you fall kind of on that? Is that something real that we can kind of weigh into picking guys?
I think it's definitely real. I think, Finau at Riviera, I was on him there. I feel like obviously the putt in the playoff was bad. He didn't even get it there. That was brutal. That was like Lexi Thompson-esque from this last weekend. But I feel like he played well enough to win. Like like you said, if Homa doesn't pull the up and down, of this world, if Tony Finau's the winner and we're having a different conversation. But this has happened so many times to him that it's probably fair to have that conversation. Finau probably wouldn't even debate you about it, that, he knows he hasn't gotten it done. So I think that's a definite thing. But then, guys get wins and get credit for them by kind of luck balling into it, so it kind of goes both ways. I still think, I'm a Finau believer. I think it's only a matter of time. I don't know if it's the U.S. Open, but it's going to happen.
It has to be only a matter of time. Come on, Tony.
Yeah.
Anything that you like really like not super long shots, because it's obviously a major championship, but do you see anything here? I'll kind of just pull up some numbers so that we can kind of look through them down in this. Oh, here's a guy I want to ask you about. You heard anything? You're in the know. You heard anything about my guy, Matt Wolff? What's going on there? Is he going to play? Is he alive? Like, what's happening?
I think he's alive. I think there was a photo of him at like an Oklahoma State golf event like a couple weeks ago. So we got a Wolff sighting. So he's with us still. I don't know, man. I think he'll play. Like, the fact he hasn't withdrawn yet, I think he'll be there. And I think, interestingly, Torrey Pines was where he got that wrist injury originally in the winter. So, I hope, I think he's going through some mental stuff. It's tough. Like, he would have been a senior in college this year, and like, it could be lonely, especially with COVID, traveling the PGA Tour when you're kind of like in lockdown and not able to do anything, and you're, should be a senior in college. That's definitely tough. So, it's crazy.
No doubt. It's brutal. Like, where normally these guys would go out and have a good time on the road, he's pretty much been stuck inside of a hotel room. So, I remember seeing some quotes like early on, like I think it was even from his mom, who's like, when Matthew is playing well, like, he is the most fun, energetic person to be around. And we saw that from him. Like, we saw it at the 3M. We saw it even to a degree at Winged Foot. Like, he's very cultivating and gets people really behind him and believing him, and it's fun to root for. But when things are going south, just sort of hasn't had the knack thus far. He's so young; it's really hard to knock him for it, but hasn't been able to rebound. Anyone like how about like Leishman or Woodland? Like, Leishman, a guy who's won here before, who's played well really recently. Top 5 at the Masters. And then Woodland, obviously, who seems to have a little bit of resurgence to his game. Won the U.S. Open on the West Coast over there 2 or 3 years ago when it was at Pebbles. So any love for any of those guys or anyone else down there in this range you think could have a shot?
Yeah, both of those guys, like we said, I think Farmers, is a good comparison to Leishman. He's so good out of this thick rough, the Kikuyu rough, the Australians love the stuff. And Woodland too. I like both of them. I like another name at that 66-1 range. Shane Lowry has been playing great golf under the radar, and ball striking wise, he's as good as anybody, in that range right now. I think at 66-1 is great value. So, it would not surprise me if he, top 10s. I think a top 10 bet once that market comes out is decent. So buying me some Shane Lowry too.
Love it. Played awesome at the Memorial last week. Seems to really be sort of returning to form. And you look at these guys like Woodland and Lowry, like recent, like not even just major champions, but recent major champions. So I think that carries a level of confidence with it. I like them both. I think that I would probably just lean Woodland at this point. And I like Gary, right? I want to root for him. So I think that if you can get up 66, 80 to 1. Let me see. Our guy, here's our boy coming in here with his pick. Fleetwood, Chris.
He's betting Fleetwood this week at Congaree, which is,
is he?
I would bet him to miss the cut. I think. I don't think this is the venue for it.
What do you think this week? Give me a take on this week because you've obviously played it recently. Or do you think like guys Brooks and DJ at the top, or it's just a tune-up week for them, and it's like going down to the minor leagues and get a few hacks in and move it on? Or where do you stand on this week?
Yeah, I think DJ. I would take DJ over Brooks. I think DJ has a little more to prove to himself where his game's at, whereas Brooks, he's obviously eyeing up the U.S. Open, so I would pick Brooks to miss the cut. That's like plus 300. I found. I'm betting that. I really think this could just be a quick eject week. Get to Torrey. The game's in such good form. He's thirsty for another major. And being in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina, probably not great. And such a different kind of test. No rough. Everyone's talked about it, and it's true. So I don't think it's a week for Brooksy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because the course looks really cool, and I'm super excited for it. But it's just unfortunate that it fell where it did. I think on the schedule, we may not be able to appreciate it with some of the best players playing the weekend like we would have hoped. But all roads lead to Torrey next week. Should be a fantastic event. I can't wait for the drone shots at Torrey that they love, where it feels like you're hang gliding through the fairway. It's awesome. We've got all the drama you could possibly ask for. Steve, I appreciate you for joining me. Tell everyone sort of before you get out of here where they can find you online.
Yeah, thanks. So S_Hennessy-GD on Twitter, Instagram, but that's just, a lot of pictures of me playing nice golf courses if you're into that, and my wife, of course. And obviously golfdigest.com, the Be Right podcast that I do with that knucklehead, Christopher Powers and Alex Myers. And then all the instruction, equipment, and golf course content at golfdigest.com. I kind of have my finger on. So, but what I love is the gambling stuff. And I've just enjoyed kind of being in this community and, getting to know guys like yourself who are, actually good at this. Like, I don't think I'm good. I've just like I know how to listen very well. My parents always told me that I have a knack for listening. So that's kind of what I've tried to do. And it's just fun. So thanks for having me, buddy. This is great.
That's very kind of you to say. Unfortunately, if you've been doing it for long enough, you eventually hit a hot streak and then cool off. So we go through the ebbs and flows. Can't wait for the U.S. Open. Thank you for joining us, Steve. Thank you, anyone who stopped by to check this out. I'll retweet it again this weekend, as it'll probably be more affable content by then. Everyone's so into Congaree this week. Best of luck to you. Best of luck, guys. We'll see you soon. See ya.